So welcome everybody. This is it. Boom! Here2start Fest second edition just happened after 2 days of amazing simultaneous sessions with more than, actually we say 30 speakers, but more than 40 speakers actually join us from all over the world together with international entrepreneurs thinking about how to start a business in the Netherlands and also in Latin America, because we had Colombia, my country, as the first guest country during our fest. So during this second edition, we went 100% live online to make it more accessible, to also take advantage of the benefits, if I can say that, of the Corona crisis, that we can make it so approachable, so accessible for everybody to join around international entrepreneurship. And in the end, we are a fest for a reason. We want to celebrate who we are, what we have done together as a community, and invite more and more people to think about entrepreneurship, as a way to reframe what they're doing, because not everybody's in business forever. We want to trigger that. We want to plant that little seed. And during this final panel, we want to talk about how we can build bridges, how we can see not only what is happening right now, but the future, especially during this context. So we have invited amazing guest speakers today. I want to introduce one by one, and then we're going to have a Q&A, really dynamic thing, going live for a purpose, of course. Please join with questions. It's not only Maria making questions, it's you making questions. We want to make this as interactive as possible because in the end, it's for you. And the good thing about doing it online is that you can just post your question in the chat, and that's it. We also opened this last session to the public, so everybody is watching and will continue watching around Facebook and LinkedIn groups of, you name it, around starting your own business. So welcome everybody. Let's start with Sandra Rincon and let's continue one by one. Sandra.
Thank you, Maria. Well, as a co-founder of Here2start, as you can imagine, I am excited and totally happy to have seen these 2 days with amazing presenters and tremendous information and knowledge sharing. And I'm very thankful to all the volunteers and speakers for donating so much of their knowledge to all of us, to this community. And it's been a wonderful way to build. And you're totally right. This is about celebrating a moment that we're all uncertain, and still we're able to create a community of people that are so willing to help and share. So that makes me very happy, and personally, it moves my heart. As I mentioned, Maria Lucia and I started this initiative with the whole purpose of helping internationals in the Netherlands, but it's expanded to other parts of the world, and we're very pleased with that. I want to talk a little bit more in terms of how this got started through how Maria and I got to meet each other. I've been in the Netherlands for a long time, even before LinkedIn existed, for those of you who can imagine that.
All about millennials. What?
So that's been quite a bit. My career has been in international higher education, and I've been an immigrant practically my whole life. I was born in Colombia. I grew up in the US, and I've been living in the Netherlands for a while. The first years were difficult in terms of getting a job in the Netherlands because there was no network. It was difficult to try to find your way around, and that had always stayed with me as how can I help others find their way very quickly. And I had the opportunity of starting different communities for professionals, and one of them it's been one of the 2 last initiatives was the Holland Alumni Network that was supported actually by NOFIC, which is a governmental organization, to actually help international students and international alumni find a community here in the Netherlands and help them transition from studies to here. And out of that, in one of the brainstorm sessions where we were creating communities in different cities, Maria Lucia came and she said, Sandra, we need to get this community of entrepreneurs, and, I'll be happy to lead that. And I said, take the flag and run, Maria, because we definitely need that. And you've gone through everything in this country in order to be able to build your own company, and therefore you have tremendous knowledge on how to help people make that transition, and that has been a wonderful, push for this. And like I said, I'm thrilled to see this coming into a reality. So thank you, Maria, for the tremendous effort and all the team behind and the volunteers, and let's get this one going.
Yes, thank you, Sandra. Really amazing introduction and flattering for everybody behind it. So far, just the organization and the speakers, we're more than 60 people doing this, and it's amazing. I'm also like, wow, I still can't believe it how we did it, but it's working. So yes, I see you soon then, and I'm happy to introduce Guy now.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Hey, thanks, Maria, for having me. I'm Guy, a trade developer for the city of Amsterdam. My job is helping Dutch companies achieve their international ambitions, mostly by connecting them with access to markets and capital and distribution channels around the world. Prior to this role, I started a crowdfunding literary agency in Singapore, which I then brought to California via 500 Startups, a startup accelerator program in Bay Area. I moved that company to New York City, the publishing capital of the world, but unfortunately I was unable to stay in the United States due to visa issues. In the end, we raised our seed round in the Netherlands, and just decided to stay here, move the company. It's an amazing tech ecosystem. It's an amazing launching pad for new companies, and it's a great place to scale up your company. That's it. Would you like me to continue?
Yes, I lost connection 1 second. I don't know what happened, but I heard everything you say. And first of all, when I meet people like you, that is like you start saying, I do this amazing thing, and then you say, I do even more amazing things. It's like, whoa, do you have time to sleep? When you listen to this type of people that are always opening new things, and I help with this and I help with that, you talk from a place of passion, of what keeps you going. And that's amazing, that's amazing. We're going to talk about it. And also we're going to talk about immigration and how to stay in the Netherlands with our next guest speaker. So I'm really happy to have you here. And I'm happy that it didn't work out somewhere else, because now we end up in the Netherlands, and this is amazing. Everything happens for a reason, right?
It does.
So in the end, welcome, Guy.
Agreed.
And yes, agreed. And I see you soon. Now, Rutger, I will try to pronounce it again. How was it?
Almost good, Maria. No worries.
Forget about it, Maria. Yeah, basically.
For a Spanish native, it is amazing that it worked. No worries.
I can do echt. Yeah, okay.
Hey guys, I'm Rutger de Graaf. I'm part of the Dutch government, and we do some visa programs. For example, the startup visa, self-employed, reference-based point system, and also the investors visas. We try to help and prepare you as best as we can. We try to have no wrong door and invite everybody based on the regulations we have.
Exactly. So if if you struggle with immigration, basically you're the right guy to know.
Correct.
Because I think, and I can say that, most of the immigration issues happen because of a lack of information. Yes. So it's not only
for sure.
100%. So people don't know what is expected, how to apply, when to apply, all the requirements. And for how long do we have the startup visa in the Netherlands?
2015.
2015. So when I came to the Netherlands in 2012, I needed to apply for the self-employed visa, which is of course 100% difficult when you are new, when you're the new person around the Netherlands.
I would say misinformation is the biggest problem.
100%.
And that's why we try to help you as best as we can with giving you clear information about what kind of documents you should hand in to the IND, so that you have the most chance to get through the point-based system, for example. Yeah.
And how does it work? Sure. So yes, and you also had a full session today about the startup visa. So
correct.
If you missed it, please, everything is there available for re-watching, checking out, take your notes, everything. So that's it. So welcome. Last but not least, we have Joyce. Welcome, Joyce.
Hello, Maria.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
So I am the odd one out, I guess. I am the person who does not live in the Netherlands. I'm actually based in Boston, but the reason I'm on the panel today is because my former colleague, Laura Van Beckham from Venture Cafe Rotterdam couldn't make it today. But I'm very happy to be representing Venture Cafe Rotterdam and the Venture Cafe family overall. As you can see from my title, I'm no longer at Venture Cafe. I'm a extended family member, but still very much part of the family. Currently, I am with a Boston-based VC fund called OpenView Venture Partners. And OpenView is focused on expansion stage B2B SaaS, B2B software companies. And even though we're Boston-based, we only have one portfolio company in Boston. So the majority of our investments are actually international. So we're geographically agnostic. And I think that's something that I want to encourage folks to think about, is the fact that the world is a bit smaller now with Zoom, with Slack, with all the various technologies we have. You can really start a business anywhere in the Netherlands and have capital coming from other places. So that's kind of the perspective I bring, and I would love to talk more about also what Venture Cafe does.
Amazing.
So I can go on and on, but yeah.
I love the two hat situations that we have here. I'm this, but I was this. Yeah, it's great because it gives like a richer, spectrum of what we can talk about today. So amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you want to talk about, I don't know, the Boston ecosystem, I used to work at MIT as well, running accelerator programs and boot camps. So can talk all day.
Well, yes. Let's hope to, let's see what we can do within this time. And of course, there's always a room for new conversations around new events about it. Since we are going to focus on international entrepreneurship in general, of course, everybody's welcome. And especially if you're not in the Netherlands yet, is welcome, because it's about entrepreneurship. And then we localize that to the Netherlands. So we have Colombia as a guest country, but of course, all countries, regardless of where you are, it's about being international abroad, So now I'm happy to welcome everybody. Yes. So we can go through our Q&A, some questions about you name it. So let's get started. I will just point at one of you, and then we can just see how we can move from there. Everybody's welcome also. Everybody who's watching right now, share your questions via comments. We're going to be checking and collecting all your questions, because in the end, it's all about you. It's about our audience who's watching. So my first question is for Guy.
Mm-hmm.
So why is the Netherlands a good place to get a new business started? Why the Netherlands?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Amsterdam first, since it's what I'm most familiar with. Amsterdam is the fastest growing tech ecosystem in Europe for the last 3 years in a row. And Amsterdam is basically just the spoke in the hub of the Netherlands. Basically, the national strategy is to connect the 10 largest ecosystems in the Netherlands with Amsterdam, and basically compete as a digital, single, unified hub. Basically, as Rutger will tell you, it's a very easy country to enter. The visa situation is super friendly. There's a lot of support, a lot of guidance. And there's also a really strong early stage funding ecosystem here. Not as strong as in Boston, where Joyce is, but Amsterdam is slowly picking up, getting those Series A, Series B rounds a bit larger. But for early stage funding, this is the place to be.
100%. Really nice that you're saying that, and that you're talking also from the experience of being in Amsterdam in particular, how everything is around hubs, around not a whole country, but what's happening. One day we're doing like an event about touring around the Netherlands, because of course people think about Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, that's it.
Yeah, Rotterdam, like me, so many interesting things happening there.
So many different things. And even me, when I came to study in Tilburg, I didn't even knew what was Tilburg, where was that, what is that, So it's so amazing that there's such a small country that is diverse and that has different, things going on at really a strategic level of how the Netherlands works, as a city, as a country, sorry. So maybe Rutger can tell us more about why the Netherlands is a great place to be and how the government is helping people to actually be there.
Yeah, I talked about this earlier today, also a little bit about the incentives that there are. And a guy just mentioned, for example, the early stage venture capital that's available. The government has a few programs that specifically focus on the early stage. We have what we call a seed capital fund from the government. And we as a government do not invest in any of these in companies directly. We use other VCs and we back them with 50% of the funding so that their risks are minimalized and they can take more risky investments in early stage, so that they do not only want to do the bigger and let's say Series A's, but also are interested in these seed phase investments. And that has really gave us a lot of great young innovative startups from all over the world. But to come back to the resident permits, they basically are really straightforward. There is one that is from the point-based system, and there's one with facilitators. And most of our facilitators are connected to knowledge institutions like universities. And they run programs, basically. They do tailor-made programs for foreign startups. And that gives you a possibility to pitch your idea at these partners. And if one of them believes in you, then you're good to go.
Amazing. And it's all about making it accessible for people who are just starting. That's why we actually call Here to Start what it is. Because it's not only about people who are starting a business, but also starting somewhere else, right? Which means that regardless of what your size is, the Netherlands is the place to be to start something new, and to validate that concept and to quickly scale. Because, of course, you have a really amazing international atmosphere where you can validate your concept and see what type of feedback you get and then take it from there, basically, right?
Well, something I want to add in this one is that the Netherlands has to be in the last years a relatively open economy, and we try to welcome from all over the world. And also in this call, I already see 3 people that lived in our country, not my country, and I think that's great.
Good, our country. That's amazing. And also from an outsider's view perspective, Joyce, you have the experience of both, living in the US, but you also understand what is happening in local communities like the Rotterdam Enter Cafe. It's amazing. Like every Thursday, everybody gathers. I'm talking about like 300 people, more or less.
Yes, 300 people.
Every single week. What's happening there?
Yeah, so that's why actually my friend and colleague Laura Van Beckham couldn't be part of this panel today, is because she is running Venture Cafe Rotterdam right now. And this happens every Thursday. Right now, yeah. every Thursday we have our Venture Cafe gathering. And it's something that was started in Cambridge in 2010, but has now expanded to 10 cities around the world across 6 countries and 4 continents. And it's a global movement we have to bring entrepreneurs together, to connect innovators, to make things happen, to help them grow their companies. And so it's really exciting. In Rotterdam, every week we bring together 300 plus people every week. Obviously, the event has had to shift because of COVID-19. So we shifted from a very lively in-person gathering where you could share beers and wine with your friends and talk about business or the emotional intelligence required to be a leader, a thoughtful leader in your startup. And now we are doing all of that same programming and the one-on-one coaching and mentorship, but just online. And so that's
amazing.
Yeah.
How is it going online? Like right now, what we're doing is exactly the same. So how is it going?
It's amazing. It's actually, I think we were nervous about the shift, but it's been, as you said, Maria, earlier, that when you have it online, you actually democratize the access. And so we've seen the numbers of attendees go even higher because you are no longer restricted to your own geography. So I have, in the course of a day, gone to every one of our venture cafes. It's very exhausting because it starts for me at midnight at our Sydney location. So we go from Sydney to Tokyo, and then from Tokyo to Rotterdam and Bilbao and Warsaw, and then from there on to the United States. So yeah, it's really fun. You get to plug into this global community, and that's something I would encourage everybody here who's watching to take part in, because at the end of the day, whatever problem you're solving, it's not localized just to the market in Amsterdam or the market in Bogota. It's a global solution that you're building, so it can have a global impact.
Of course, and it's about relevance. If it's relevant to you, if you share common interests, if you are, as we are here around sitting to talk about international entrepreneurs and what we can do and how do we see the future, then that's enough. That's enough to make it accessible and connect around that interest and that the thing that puts us all together, right?
Yes.
And I love that what you do has like the international aspect in the DNA, like the fact that you can go in the cheapest way possible around the world in one day, visit everybody and see the differences, within the different cultures, the different places where everything takes place. Right now, for example, we have a lot of people from Latin America joining our Here2start Fest from everywhere, coming with entire delegations also from Washington. So, of course, what you get by putting all these people together is only what comes out of diversity, who you are. So about that, Sandra can really tell us a lot about communities, because, of course, as the leader, as the president of the Holland Alumni Network, you help people to make that transition into the labor market, and, of course, also the startup entrepreneurial, basically what we do together to encourage people to start their own business. So how do local communities support international entrepreneurs? What is the relevance of those communities that we create at a certain location, Sandra?
Well, I mean, with the Holland Alumni Network, just to clarify, is an association of international students and alumni residing in the Netherlands. And the NOFEC, which is funded by the Dutch government, what they created was a global network. They had alumni associations, what they call it, Holland Alumni Networks, in different parts of the world. And they didn't have one here in the Netherlands. And so our initiative was to get that one going here, an association of people who had studied in the Netherlands, primarily had graduated. But we saw that engagement needs to actually start when they're still students. And so how do we facilitate so that they get that knowledge, what Maria was saying, Rutger was saying about that startup visa, for example. If you don't know that even exists, you don't, and that's the kind of knowledge that we try to bring into our community. So we have
so it's so important to, in the end, have a good balance between doing something local and having a global mindset, because both Joyce, Guy, you were doing this already by just living or having the experience of living abroad and then coming back. Sandra,
that's fine. But I think that the important thing here is getting people to meet each other, but getting people also to find the knowledge quickly, the information quickly, so that they can navigate. I mean, all these international students, they're bright people, they're resourceful. But it's not easy to find the information quickly. So what this Holland Alumni, what our association provides, is sort of a stepping stone to be able to do that. But it's also a stepping stone for the global network, because then there is the Holland Alumni Network in 52 countries. So we also let them know that, hey, if you decide to, leave the Netherlands or, go back to either your home country or anywhere else, there is all these other associations there that where you can also plug in. Because, I mean, when people come and study here, they could have had stayed in the country for between 2 years up to 7 years, right? And going back to their native countries, I mean, we know that they've been out of that network, and it's like restarting. So we try to facilitate that knowledge as much as possible.
100%. So what you're saying now, I completely agree, that you also you travel through communities, right? So when you belong to these associations, these networks, this is a way to get started, but not really from scratch, because when you travel and you know that there's a community there or here around what you what basically keeps you busy and where you want to focus, then that's the way to enter, and not in this way, but in a way that is way more like smooth in the end, because that's what we want to facilitate, to make the whole entrepreneurial journey for internationals easier, easier. And that it means access to information, the right information, like we're talking about with Rutger, access to community, of course, that that people meet people like you, and of course that you have the vision, that you know how to grow, huh? Because even if you're here, you're just in idea phase, you need to know examples of how to grow. And not only the Disney World idea, look at them, so successful, look at them, posted at Silicon Canal, whatever. It's not about the success story, it's also about the struggle, about how difficult it is and how we face the challenges together. And we can, of course, also help as a community to make that visible for policymakers, so we can influence, and that's one of our strategic goals. Yeah. We want to influence on policy makers. And how do we do that? By providing feedback, by measuring what we as a community have, like a struggle, like everything that comes up, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about, because we're going to talk about the future. Let's talk about what's happening now and what is going to continue happening. That is the Corona crisis, right? So let's talk about Corona. We cannot ignore Corona. And I hope that we will be talking about beer, but no. Let's talk about the pandemic. Let's talk about how can international entrepreneurs create or reinvent their business in this context, like how this can also be seen as an opportunity to reinvent yourselves, or to even have new businesses emerging thanks to this. Maybe, Guy, you can tell us what you have seen so far during these times.
Yeah, certainly. Of course, it depends on your business, but we have seen many companies adapting in interesting ways. Recently, I was working with a mushroom farming company that provide mushrooms for restaurants, really delicious gourmet mushrooms. Of course, with Corona, restaurants closed down completely and their business evaporated overnight. But they adapted by starting a mushroom delivery service, building a little mushroom cycle and getting on the bike and delivering mushrooms. They started dehydrating mushrooms and powdering them so they can be added to smoothies, and then selling that. So, of course, it depends on your business. But yeah, companies have been incredibly resourceful at adapting to the pandemic.
100%, like some examples is good, because, not only think about how companies have shifted what they do, like you just say, I love the mushroom example, by the way. Yes, but also like new companies that also start because of COVID. That now, they start something new. Like maybe Joyce, you can share some stories about what international entrepreneurs are doing facing the pandemic.
Yeah, I don't have a great example like the mushroom story, but
oh my God, you said they have bar high.
Yeah, but I will say that the saying that necessity is the mother of invention is absolutely true. I would say that I've been in a number of different large organizations who for years we were talking about experimenting with maybe working from home and what working from home would look like. And there were all these plans and ways that we talked ourselves out of it. Now we have no choice but to work from home. And overnight, many of our operations shifted to this mode. And so it's caused us to innovate and think more creatively about how we work from home. And so I have talked to some business leaders and startup founders who have thought about how their business model needs to shift to accommodate coronavirus and the COVID-19 response. But at the same time, it actually future-proofs their business. It makes their business more resilient for a future where people are working and living differently, which undoubtedly will be the case. So I really think it's an interesting time. It's an unfortunate time. I'm not going to say it's a great thing. We have this global pandemic, but we can look at it as a way to spark innovation and it's an opportunity to think in new ways. So yeah, I've been seeing a lot of companies come out that are tackling this problem. Like StreamYard wasn't really a thing that people were using too much, but now we are using. So there's a great opportunity, especially in the SaaS space and in collaboration tools and ways in which we can bridge these gaps virtually.
100%. I really agree with you. And I think that also some industries are like booming, e-commerce. Like, my parents, I come from an entrepreneurial family, and what we do is that we import alcohol to Colombia and we represent those brands. And yes, we work with Heineken and Corona, all this in the past. But what happened? Like, everything was offline, and we're talking about people that are like in this business, or like traditional companies with, second, third generation of people that they're like, technology, what is that? So a lot of companies, even going to the groceries, starting new delivery, the solutions. Technology is growing in general. Everything about transitioning, or like going to your first digital, steps, doing the first digital transformation steps, plus e-commerce, like going transactional, and also exploring by going going online, that you can actually access to more people than your local neighbors. Like these type of things that are happening to the the biggest amount of entrepreneurs that we have, that are basically those types, that are not necessarily thinking or focusing on scalability. This is happening now, like also as a result, as an outcome of Corona, right? Of the Corona crisis.
Maria, can I make a plug for Venture Cafe again? Is this too much too heavy on the Venture Cafe?
No, come on.
Okay,
this is a safe space. Yeah.
I will say that they're like a butterfly about to grow. There's no better time for reinvention, or to look at this as an opportunity for pivoting or shifting. And so Venture Cafe actually just today launched, Venture Cafe Rotterdam just launched its summer school. So it's a 9-week program with 2 tracks. The first is the Venture School track, which has all the things you need to learn from A to Z to how to start a company. And then the second track is more personal, the Reinvent Yourself track, thinking about how you as an individual can upskill or reinvent yourself in this time. So would want to push that as a resource that people should look at.
Amazing.
Oh,
amazing.
Joyce, if I may, Maria, Joyce, you just beat me to it, because I was, no, but it's a great transition to what I wanted to say, which is precisely that companies are made out of humans, right? And in order to reinvent a company, you also need to facilitate that people are reinventing themselves, because during a crisis, people need to adjust, rethink. If you are the CEO of your company, that's great, but what happens to your employees? You need to also think about how are you going to help your employees, come out of this. And that's where the redefining yourself in a crisis, it's important. And so I think it's fantastic. It's fantastic that you guys are doing that. And we'll definitely check it out. But it's that's that part of that I think that helps the internationals and the locals meet in that sense, is redefining yourself and how can you best apply those skills that you've been building up to think of other ways, using the mushroom example again. I'm sure that that the employees in that store, I'm sure that they had a brainstorm session, and they, some of them thought, hey, we could use this for smoothies. I mean, I love smoothies. Why don't we do that? I'm sure that so listening to your employees, I think is also really important.
Okay, we have a question also from the audience, and I would like to share with you. How can you meet interesting people to connect by doing it online? What is out there that we can recognize, apart from coming here to this type of events, joining Venture Cafe, like what's happening, or what type of online communities we can recommend to people who are looking about, because actually a lot of people were like, I love my business, but everything is going so wrong for me right now that I don't have the energy right now. So a lot of people struggle with actually having that, empowering themselves, or thinking that they are being confident about the future, because of course we're facing uncertainty. So, like showing people like the route to connect with the people like you, people that are standing right next to you in the same situation, can be a good way to help people through the crisis, right? So what can we recommend in terms of meeting interesting people to connect and doing everything online, apart from what we provide via Here2start, Rotterdam Venture Cafe, everybody else who's partnering up with us, Holland Alumni Network? There's so many different communities. It's more like if you Google it, you will find it. But we have just check all of the logos that we have. Everybody's moving a lot online, a lot. Since I think March or so, especially, there was like this boom, everybody shifted to the online space, right? What else can we add to that? Joyce, maybe Sandra, maybe Guy, maybe Rutger,
I can offer two communities, which I think are super valuable and have been really valuable for me as an entrepreneur. The first one is Rockstart. They're an accelerator program. They have a huge network of investors and partners and mentors all throughout the Netherlands. They just announced this month that they're going fully remote. And so they are so eager to connect early founders with their network. And of course, they are an investor themselves as well. Ask them, reach out to Rockstart, they will help you. And the second online community I'd recommend is Startup Amsterdam. They're a part of the city of Amsterdam, just a wonderful group of human beings who care so much about supporting this ecosystem. They read every single email and they respond to every single email. They can help with visas, with relocation, even with stuff like housing if you need to find it. But of course, normally the first step is to have something solid, such as the visa or an investment. And I think Startup Amsterdam is a really great way that you can virtually connect with a network.
100% right. Yes. Rutger, do you have any recommendation about how to go around, the virtual space, how to make it now during this transition? And what you know from the Dutch? Yeah.
I think you're going to get a lot of more connections in the digital space, and but I still have to say that it also matters where you can meet each other for a drink. I mean, it keeps being really important to just have the opportunity to meet people on safe distance. And in the Netherlands, we can meet each other in safe distance, I would say. Our economy is opening up. Our country is opening up. I mean, we can meet again, and we can enter the country again from abroad. So that's really positive. So I would also suggest come and visit us and get a feeling of how it is to be in the Netherlands.
As soon as you can visit us. Yeah. So far my flight was canceled. So let's see when they open the airports here in Colombia.
I'm not allowed to visit, so I would love to, but
oh my God.
because of our underperformance on the COVID response.
Yeah, we're not welcome in the States either. So,
let's not go there, guys. So
no.
It's valid. Everybody knows it's not the best kept secret or something. So Rutger, a question going back to the startup visa and the COVID relationship. How is it working now that everything is closed down? Like, is it possible to apply for startup visa right now?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, it's possible. The only restriction on it is that if you have not been granted your startup visa, you have to wait outside till your national company opens up the borders. What is a lot of the cases still. But if you can travel to the European Union, then you're able to collect also your resident permits. But applications are you can hand them in or like send them in at the local embassy. That's not a problem at the moment.
Okay, so you don't have to be in the Netherlands or have anybody in the Netherlands to apply for you. Go to it.
No.
With your file. Okay, that's amazing because a lot of countries.
For the startup visa.
You know how it is, around the world, there's still a lot of paper, still a lot of, queues and bureaucracy. And that's also something important to maybe mention to give some context about how things are in the Netherlands.
Yeah, the startup visa is totally digital, so that's a good thing. You can apply online, basically, with your facilitator. That's the only one. You need to have your facilitator because they have... the in-log details, the login details, So that's not a problem. And what I want to tell the viewers also is that it's possible to apply for the search year visa. What is even broader available than the startup visa for everyone who graduated at a university degree, master or PhD. They could apply for this search year if the university is within one of the 3 top rankings. You can find all the details at the IND website, but for example, almost all in Colombia, I believe 2 universities meet requirements. So both in Bogota. That means that everybody within 3 years of graduation of a master degree at these two universities is able to come to the Netherlands for 1 year, has no restrictions on the labor market, and has no restrictions on starting their own company.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing opportunity, I would say.
So just to clarify on the research year, if you study in the Netherlands, I came to study in the Netherlands. After graduation, you can stay in the Netherlands by applying to the research year, but also if you didn't study in the Netherlands, right? That's what you're saying.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. If you started at a top 200 university based on one of the 3 top rankings or your department you studied at, then you're allowed to. And in Colombia, there are only 2 universities that make the ranking. I believe Al Salma and University of Bogota, National University of Bogota, University of Bogota, and there's a private one.
Javeriana, and well, we can talk about it later because I know of the university with Sandra, right? With Sandra, we really promote actually for people to apply to start the research year, the zoekjaar in Dutch.
Yeah.
Because this is basically the time to go to the Chamber of Commerce. This is exactly how I did it. You have 12 months after graduation to try to find a job, or you can even do nothing. Like, work, travel, or nothing. And we say, people, do something. Take advantage of this time to also try to start your business and see how it is. You don't have the pressure as a non-EU of the countdown band. You have 12 months to test it, to do it, to register your business and see how it goes, right? So this year is also a good opportunity for us to start businesses as non-EU citizens, right?
Totally right. And I would advise everybody to try to use that. Because if you're thinking about it, it's a perfect idea to get a feeling of a country and also to an experience, I would say.
Yeah. Well, people are also curious here in the questions about tourism, about what's going on with the Netherlands, of course, there's a lot of people coming to the Netherlands, especially to Amsterdam. What is the impact, and how people can just possibly start knowing when things are open. But I have to say that things in the Netherlands are way more advanced in terms of access and mobility, and things are going back to normal way faster than here in Colombia. I have been out 3 times since mid-March. So you can get me. So I need you guys to talk to me, right? I'm desperate for social connection. So yeah, what can we expect? How are things in the Netherlands right now in terms of travel and people like mobility? Somebody who's based in the Netherlands right now?
I mean, I can say, I don't know if I have a satisfactory answer, but I can say that the government is launching a lot of paid pilot projects about opening up tourism and hospitality in innovative and interesting ways. Just a few examples. There's a biotechnology lab and fermentory restaurant cafe called Mediamatic, recommended for anyone to go who visits here. And due to the 1.5 meter social distancing limit, they set up tiny greenhouses where 2 people could basically sit and dine in privacy, but at a safe social distance. And the region around Mediamatic, which is called Marine Terrain, has launched a huge competition, sourcing ideas from within the Netherlands and outside the Netherlands on how can restaurants and cafes open up in a safe way. And there were many technology proposals around measuring the density of people in different spaces and using apps to figure out which places are safe and which ones aren't safe. But you would need to just look and do some Google research to look for those kinds of competitions where there are money, there is money available for these ideas.
That's good. And in the end, it's about, being informed, like you said, like knowing about those stories that will really show you some insights, some possible hints for you to know where are the next steps. Of course, joining these type of spaces where we share our knowledge also from different perspectives. Sandra representing education, you representing scale, some people that are coming to the Netherlands and that, you're making in the Netherlands, Rutger from the government perspective, and of course, Joyce from the community perspective and everything that you're doing amazing jobs around Rotterdam Venture Cafe, but not only that, but also from the US many things are happening and people are connecting around what they need. And basically, that's the message that we have as Here to Start, you know, how we can unite and conquer, how we can unite and conquer together, like new ways of being abroad, you know, and new ways of being successful as well within your businesses, because that's what we want. Not only to meet friends, but we want to succeed in business by following those best practices, you know, stories that can connect to us. Like if I'm talking to a non-EU citizens about how you made the whole process for the startup visa, of course, it's way more useful than if I talk to somebody from Germany who's like, startup visa, what is it? Schengen area, what is it? I'm like, you know. So that's the whole thing. So let's wrap it up by talking about the future, you know. And that question is for all of us, so to discuss about what is coming up next for internationals looking to grow or to start a business in the Netherlands. But I could also extend it also for Joyce around the world in the next decade. Let's take the crystal ball that I have here and tell people what we see. How do you see the future? Yeah, we can do a little round like that. Maybe Joyce, Sandra, Guy, and Rutger. How do you see the future coming up next for international entrepreneurs?
Oof, well, I could talk all day about this, and I probably need a drink to talk about the United States. So I will talk about the Netherlands first. I am very, very optimistic about the future of the Netherlands because I'm a firm believer that you need these democratic policies and ideals to support business and entrepreneurship, and particularly to support international entrepreneurs to come to a place and feel that their ideas are respected, valid, that they can actually do the necessary paperwork to work legally in the country, and that they can be connected. So, I mean, there's enough barriers to entry for regular entrepreneurs, let alone folks who are not native to the country. So anything that we can do to remove those barriers, and that's why Venture Cafe exists, is to remove those barriers to access to the resources you need, the people you need to talk to just commiserate. Sometimes it's like a therapy session, just showing up and meeting others like yourself who are going through the same journey. So I'm very positive that the Netherlands will continue to do this kind of work. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Dutch government and the work that the Dutch government is doing to open its borders. And because of that, I am very saddened about where my country is going and the impacts I've seen over the last few years. I was sharing, we were talking earlier, the speakers, that Guy had to leave because he couldn't get a visa. I have had other friends, folks who are not American citizens, who have had to leave and bring their talents elsewhere. They've had to go to Canada or Europe or Asia. And it's really unfortunate for the United States, but I'm hopeful that later this year we will have someone else in leadership and we will have a shift back in a direction that is pro-international business.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Sandra, the future.
Yeah, well, thanks, Joyce. I totally agree with you. I'm an optimist, and I like to read, this forward thinkers and look at. I've been lately reading a lot on Noam Harari and the 21 lessons for the 21st century, and he talks about that we will be needing to reinvent ourselves continually. He had thought of in a further future, talk about 20 years from now, but I think it's now, right? It's hit us with this crisis. It has put everybody sort of in the same boat. Yes. What you have seen in higher education is that there's been more and more the whole thought of entrepreneurship as a competency, regardless of whether you're actually teaching students to open up their own business, but actually having a mindset of an entrepreneur, because regardless of what type of company you will be working, or government, nonprofit, profit, whatever, that entrepreneurial mindset is indispensable, because with technology, our jobs have become much more at the macro level than detailed things, which computers will eventually be able to take over easily. And one of the common things that I hear, that I read, if you read Chomsky or Rushkoff or whoever, is this guy is talking about, or Noam Klein, is what they talk about is setting communities, and that the community, and that's what's going to be able to make us survive again. I mean, one of the reasons why we're the species that survives so well and has changed its environment is precisely because we can collaborate with strangers, right? And yeah, and so I mean that's what it differentiates us from the bees and from the ants, right? That they are working little colonies. But I mean, we go international. We set up businesses with people, from other places, and don't necessarily have to live with them and know them really well. So, I'm an optimist. I think that precisely the international and entrepreneurial mindset is what's going to be sort of the leading competencies that not only us as entrepreneurs need, but I mean, everybody's going to need these.
100%. I think that by just providing the toolbox and providing the connections and providing those plugs, we're plugging people. That's the way to go moving forward. Like thinking about what you need, where you're standing, and not only looking at this from an asking position. We really promote giving position. What you have to give. Giving is fundamental. And saying like, and not like, oh, you can give now because you have a big company. No, even if you're that lonely entrepreneur that starts somewhere, you have language, you have skills, you have knowledge, you have many things that can add, and you will be surprised about how many people are giving something and understanding who they are by just, having that question. Yeah, okay, so what can you do? What can you give to empower, to help other entrepreneurs, international entrepreneurs? So, Guy, let's talk about the future for you. What do you think that is going to happen next, in the next years?
Yeah. I mean, my money is on circular economy and any companies involved in circular economy. So this has been adopted as a matter of public policy by the city of Amsterdam, and circular economy refers to closing raw material loops. And this is going to be going into law at a national level in 2050. It's still pretty far away, but basically there is a plan in place to make sure that all companies are closing the loops of their materials so that we have a sustainable economy. So yeah, look for opportunities in circular economy, read Donut Economics, find out more about it. There are loads of opportunities, and I'm sure, as Rutger knows, the Dutch government is getting right behind supporting circular economy startups financially and legally and otherwise.
Amazing, great. And it's really, really useful to know that. Yes, Rutger.
The SDGs are really central to the policy. So if you can help us solve any of the social development goals, help us. All the sustainable development goals, anyone who can help, be our guest. We really need to do this together.
Just to give some context to people, it's amazing how in the Netherlands, the government is posting, give us this idea. Like it's not common. Just to say that from Colombian perspective, it's not common that a government says, hey guys, open for ideas. If you have a solution for this problem, we are here to listen. We're here to help you out to actually, develop that idea into a solution that will have a huge impact. So I really love that about the Netherlands, the fact that you say, hey, we're open for that, we're open for conversation. It's such an horizontal way, It's such a horizontal and accessible way. It's just to give an example of who you are, like Rutger, for example. Just look at Rutger, like he looks like the most approachable, easygoing person in the world. And he is representing the Dutch government. It's not like this uptight, person that you're like, sir, Mr. Doctor, PhD. No. It's Rutger, talk to him, right?
We do our best. Thanks, Maria.
He's such a nice guy, and that's so important, moving forward, because especially with immigration, we're used to the faces, immigration, the queue, the police, the everything. You did something wrong, and then suddenly we have this approach. So moving forward for you, representing everything that is happening at Dutch government level, what is happening, in policy, in making, in supporting international entrepreneurs and helping us to to make it.
Yeah, what I said, the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals are really on top of priority for us. And also, what is interesting maybe on migration level is that from next year, we will have a central personnel ruling. It means that if you start your company, you can bring over your employees without paying the high salary fines that are now way above, like knowledge workers have a really high salary. But then you can bring your team also to the Netherlands. And
that's amazing.
The only rule is that you have to give them in the stack some shares in the company. At least that there are partly entrepreneurial active.
That's great. That's really great.
Wow.
You know,
That's impressive.
Bravo.
Yay!
Bravo.
Leading the charge.
In the 1st of January.
That's amazing, because normally people struggle looking at this salary, like minimum salary that you need to have as a knowledge migrant. And you say, well, I couldn't work in that McDonald's. I mean, when like people are struggling about how much is expecting for them to be there, because actually you can live with way less in the Netherlands, and then there's a gap. So the fact that we can actually arrive to the Netherlands and also have that share, to have that part of being entrepreneurs there within our own company is amazing.
That's the idea.
Yeah. Roger, did you say that was starting from this January, or will be starting next January? It's already in place.
From 2021. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
2021. Yeah. So everybody, start learning Dutch. Oh no, please try to learn Dutch. Try, because of course you can do your whole life in the Netherlands just with English. But locals do appreciate the fact that you can say echt, right?
Yes.
And lekker, yes.
Gezellig.
Gezellig. Everyone should be able to say gezellig if they come to the Netherlands.
Exactly. We all pass the test.
It means cozy, comfortable, nice feelings.
Cozy type of environment. Yes. Well, thank you, everybody. This was amazing. You know, we got a lot of different insights from so many different perspectives, diverse perspectives from different positions that you are representing here. And I'm really grateful for having you here, especially closing our second edition of the Here2start Fest. We will meet every single year, but we hope to, of course, stay in touch, because in the end, it's all about joining forces. We are calling out for partners, locals and internationals, to continue helping our international entrepreneurial community, because in the end, it's all about community, as we all said during this whole time. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Rutger. Thank you, Guy. I hope that I can have a little beer, coffee, whatever, when I'm back in the Netherlands in September or so. We'll stay in touch. Yes?
Bye,
everybody.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.